Chip Patterson, he watches the games, and he joins us, as always, moderator, Cover 3 Podcast, CBSSports.com. As always, we're going to talk about games, too. We're not just going to, because I think if I could detect something from the very beginning of last night's Cover 3 Podcast, which I listened to today, is that even with two more of these ahead of us, right? Two more of the fake ranking shows are ahead of us, right?
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. Two more of these that won't matter. I sensed fatigue.
Oh no, we didn't do our job then.
I sensed fatigue because the questioning, what were they thinking about? How could they possibly do this here and that there? There just wasn't a lot of that. We moved right on to some other things. So did my spidey sense, was it correct?
I think that where we have seen fatigue is probably responding to what's happened in the fan ecosystem, and which is a nerdy way to not just talk about social media, but sometimes there are radio hosts who are fans. There are podcast hosts who are fans. There are television figures who are fans. And they might not be a fan of one specific team, but they are certainly rallying around their tribe in a way that is a little bit exhausting. You know, like I kind of thought that we weren't going to have it. And I believe I said it last night. Like, why did this become a culture war?
Yeah,
like,
you did.
Why did the college football playoff rankings become a culture war? That's the fatigue that I'm feeling right now, because as I think I said with you either last week or the week before, the thing that I hate is that we are not talking about the football. The conversation has become so dumbed down that we are not even talking about the teams. We're not celebrating the players. It is unfair to everyone who's out there playing college football that the idea of, if Indiana was in the SEC, they'd be the 9th best team. And then, but then,
is that wrong? By the way, is that an incorrect statement?
Listen, I tell you what. Texas A&M, like glorious Texas A&M, is only a 2.5-point favorite at Auburn.
I'm with you. I'm with you on that.
If you want to play the hypothetical lines game, the hypothetical lines say that your king, Mr. Texas A&M, is only a 2.5-point favorite against an Auburn team that's not going to a bowl game.
Right.
So, I mean,
and A&M is 2 wins away from winning the SEC. Am I correct?
3 wins away. 2 wins away from clinching their spot in the SEC championship game. 3 wins away from winning the conference. Yeah, okay. That is correct. They have beaten up on the bottom of the SEC the way that Indiana has beaten up on the bottom of the Big Ten.
I mean, it's funny. I looked at this before. Indiana's schedule, apart from this week at Ohio State, go to the bottom of the standings and just work your way up. That's who they played.
And guess what? This is, I wonder who did this. Like, who could have been responsible for this? These 16-team conferences with unbalanced schedules where sometimes you get the good draw and sometimes you get the bad draw. Like, these are the consequences of our actions. Congratulations. My fatigue and frustration is that we are not even looking at these teams individually. The starting point is with the scoreboard between the conferences, and that to me is exhausting.
So let me ask this question quickly, because I've had these conversations. It's been mostly about basketball. That I argued that the ACC in basketball, this is years ago, should have taken their best teams and made a schedule strictly with television in mind. Mm-hmm. So we think these are going to be our best teams. This is when we were at 4 to 12 teams. Maybe it might have been 15. Maybe the ACC's been at 15 for a long enough period now. It might have been 15. So we take our best teams, and we don't care that it's going to be imbalanced. I don't care what the conference standings will look like at the end, but our best teams are going to play our best teams. And then we'll take the middle and we'll play you against them, but also give you some lower teams, because the idea is to build up good records. And if we figure you're going to be bad, we'll play against each other, but you're basically going to take one for the team to elevate everybody else. it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if conferences did that in football either. And I'm not saying the Big Ten engineered Indiana's schedule because I don't think anybody saw Indiana coming.
No.
But it certainly worked out well for them, although I'm not sure how deep the Big Ten goes in good teams. We might be done at 4.
The Big Ten ultimately has been let down by the national champion and national runner-up from last football season being 500 teams.
Mm-hmm. Right.
The view of the Big Ten is remarkably different if Washington and Michigan are 8-4.
Southern Cal.
You know?
Southern Cal's under 500.
Yeah, I think that you can very quickly identify a world where the Big Ten is able to bang the table and talk about the meat grinder the same way that the SEC is talking about the meat grinder. Because guess what? When you expanded, you added powerful, big, attractive football programs that people want to watch.
And UCLA.
When you have the scheduling motivation of having these teams play each other, you're going to take more losses.
No,
this is why everybody should, at this point, if these conferences are going to be so daggone big, everyone should play a 10-game conference schedule.
Well, I guess. Yeah.
No. Everybody play a 10-game conference schedule. And guess what? You know what else you won't have? 6 teams tied for second place. Because you'll have more games to be able to sort this thing out. We're not going to be deciding who gets to play for a conference championship based on the winning percentage of your opponents in conference play. Stupid. Did you see that week 12 ended on Saturday night late. Congratulations to New Mexico. You rushed the field after beating Washington State. Bronco Mendenhall, Broncos big bad beefy boys. He's got those Lobos doubling up their win total. It was 1.5. They got 3. Good job, New Mexico. So that was a long time ago when New Mexico was rushing the field. Did you know it took 3 days to figure out that Oregon had clinched a spot in the Big Ten title? They announced that yesterday.
Right, I know. That's so funny.
Because they had to beep, beep, boop, boop, bop, bop, beep, boop, boop. We have run all the simulations, and we have concluded Oregon would win all the tiebreakers. Bring back divisions, 10-game conference schedules. Pick something, but this ain't working.
No, so you're right, by the way, and I'm not sure. I think it's. You still can't play everybody. You're still going to have all the inequities. And I guess maybe they should in football play 10 games against your league and then 2 games outside of your league. But, teams are going to fatten. One of those 2 games is going to be a nothing, and the other game is probably also going to be a nothing, judging.
That's fine. As long as we're using conference championships as something that matter, because another option
then why not just play all of your games inside your league?
I'm trying to go halfway here. I'm trying to offer a reasonable solution.
Right, but most teams at that point will ignore there's not going to be a mandate at that point. Most teams will not play a good non-conference game, which means that why are we doing that? Just play more conference games. I want to ask you.
You do that so that the backups can play. That's fine. You can have a family day. You can have a military appreciation day. You can sell your tickets. They're both going to be home games,
right?
Both more than likely. But you at least are going to not have this crazy imbalance within these massive leagues where the draw can be so disparate.
All right, let me ask you a big picture question about this, and I do want to talk about games. We're going to honor the players and honor the games. And by the way, I'm not sure Colorado is great, but the story of Colorado's season is pretty good. And I remember us having a conversation at the beginning, going, "I'm not sure that Colorado's got any good players," and they're sitting here. What are they, 8-2? So I think 8-2 or whatever they are. They're have a good chance to play in the Big 12 championship game. So we'll talk about the Big 12 especially coming up. But here's my question, because I heard Tom Fornelli say this. Chip Patterson is with us, as he is every Wednesday. Cover 3 podcast does an incredible reaction podcast to the college football playoff fake rankings. And Fournell, that's what they are. They will tear it up and go again next week and the week after and whatever. It's fine. They should. But Fornelli talked about, and I think you agree, and you have said it on this program, that they're going to do what they want to do, and the committee will take care of the SEC and the Big Ten. So my question is, if things fall in a logical way, Indiana loses at Ohio State, Penn State gets their best win of the season at Minnesota this week, and there's not even a debate that would be their best win of the season.
Illinois.
Yeah. What has Illinois done?
Illinois is about to be 8-3.
Right.
Illinois got to win against the Kansas team that just beat BYU.
Right. I'm not sitting here selling BYU, by the way, but I'm just saying that Kansas is 4-6 now.
Illinois got, like, I don't see the bad loss.
What Illinois' bad loss?
Well, it's to Minnesota, but they got beat by Penn State, they got beat by Oregon, they lost to Minnesota, they came back, they thumped Michigan State, they beat Rutgers this week, they're 8-3.
Rutgers, Maryland, Michigan State, whoever's on Illinois' schedule, they're a product. Who you play matters. So anyway, I just want to get back to my original point. Isn't the committee's job, whether, outwardly, to put the best possible bracket they can forward? Is that the committee's job?
We won't know if they care about the bracket until it comes to the final rankings.
Right.
I do think it is their job to work on the rankings. I think that this committee, which has 6 new members, or 13-member committee, 6 new members, this committee does not care about head-to-head results like previous committees. This committee does not care about strength of schedule like previous committees.
How can strength of schedule not matter? I don't understand that. So because to me there's a credibility, potentially a credibility problem with this committee. Like, if Indiana loses, they don't have to lose by a lot, but if they lose by 2 touchdowns at Ohio State, I mean, we're sitting here saying that Indiana's probably still going to get in, and I just don't know who.
I'm not saying that.
I think Fornelli did, right?
No.
Yeah, I think he did.
No, he wrote on CBSSports.com. Okay. He said, look, if Indiana or Penn State lose this weekend, they are going to find themselves in a very, very tricky situation fighting against teams that have better wins. Like, their strength right now is their loss column. Indiana with the 0, Penn State with the 1. Their strength is not their win column.
Right.
What we see with BYU, by the way, which absolutely tumbled even behind an SMU team that it beat earlier this season, what we see is that the strength of BYU's ranking was the loss column, and that was it, because there's just not enough in the win column to be able to support their standing.
But they were never ranked as high as Indiana was ranked.
They were right beside each other heading into this. Yeah.
Okay. The
5 and 6
with a better win.
What?
With a significantly better win than Indiana had.
Yeah, and I think I said this last night. What I saw with that is that the committee's just never liked BYU.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. I mean, what we all have biases.
I think the committee doesn't like Miami. I think the committee likes that, with the exception of the Michigan game, Indiana's just thumped teams.
They have.
I think that the committee just looks up and they say, "Yeah, I don't care about your strength of schedule."
They don't.
I don't care about your.
That bothers me because
what hypothetical ranking? We've just seen them thump everybody. That's what good football teams do.
If Clemson had scheduled Kansas as opposed to Georgia to open the season, and Kansas was no good at the beginning of the year, they
were preseason top 25.
Right. If Clemson had scheduled Kansas and beaten Kansas by whatever score, doesn't matter, and had one loss at this point, wouldn't we be considering them, even with the loss to Louisville, wouldn't we be considering them a lock to make the playoff, pretty much. Maybe not a mortal lock, but wouldn't we be considering that? Oh man, they're in. It'd be like seeded 6th right now.
So if they were a one-loss team and that only one loss was Louisville,
yeah,
they would be. I don't know if they'd be 6th, but they would be right there around Miami.
So my argument is, and you've heard me make this argument before. Clemson, why would you do that? Why do you schedule that game? I know it's fun. It's fun. You already play year in and year out. You play South Carolina. But Clemson does this just about every year. The years they don't play Notre Dame, they find a team from the SEC that's willing to play them and beat them, and they get beat. Why do you do this? You're stopping yourself. Ohio State isn't doing this for the most part. Occasionally they do, and it's eye-opening when they do it. They didn't do it this year. They played nobody outside the league. I just don't understand why teams do it. That's a different conversation, I guess.
I don't think that everyone goes into the process of building their schedule and setting up their season with the end result in mind. And I think that the Clemson Tigers certainly are among those programs that don't think that they should shortcut or game their way into title contention.
It's like using the transfer portal.
Clearly, they are a developmental program that believes that when we develop this thing and build this thing up right, we can go compete for championships. So,
all right.
A lot of Clemson's goals are gone, but they've still got that state championship on November 30th. And they still got.
They do, and I still think they can get an at-large bid. I still think at 10-2 they can get in based on what they do against South Carolina and based on results around them. I will die on that hill. I'm not saying they will. I'm saying they could. And then they could end up playing for the title if SMU, and I heard you guys talk about SMU at Virginia. That's a losable game.
Yep.
That is definitely a losable game. Virginia has proven to be plucky. They've proven to be a thumbtack on your seat. Ask Pitt that. I still think that was the most damaging loss of that weekend, not Miami's loss. All right, so Indiana at Ohio State. I mean, if Indiana wins, it's not even a conversation. They're going to play Oregon for the title. Whatever happens there, that'll be fun. But handicap Indiana at Ohio State for us. We have actual football, Chip. I know you're appreciative of that.
Yeah, I am. A big part of it's going to be whether or not Ohio State, which you might have seen, lost its starting center. To an Achilles injury, which means that is now the third Ohio State starter that is lost from what they were expecting coming into the year. It is the fourth Ohio State starter on the offensive line that they have lost to injury, though they've gotten one of them back. They have been shuffling that group around. And what Indiana has done is that they have overcome their on paper they have overcome their heights and weights and recruiting rankings when it comes to the lines of scrimmage. It is a defensive line that absolutely pins their ears back and gets after you. The defense has done a great job on third down, and I just wonder, because of the physicality, the step up in physicality, can Indiana, especially with this banged up group, stop the run? Because remember the Nebraska game. Ohio State could not run the football worth a lick against Nebraska. They end up winning that game, I think 21-14, 21-17, close, low-scoring game. And here's the difference. Indiana's offense is remarkably better than anything Ohio State has faced so far this year outside of Oregon. The offense for Indiana, with Curtis Work leading the way, is very balanced. And I think that the pass defense for Ohio State could end up being the difference, because whether you've got Elijah Surratt, whether you've got Omar Cooper, you've got, again, some of these players that just exceed their height, weight, recruiting rankings. Now, sometimes physics, not football, is what decides matchups like this.
Right.
If Ohio State looks bigger, stronger, faster, and doesn't screw up, they're going to win the game. And then it will be a great debate on how close Indiana was. But I'm 100% giving Indiana a shot in this game, and I think a lot of it comes down to the fact that we have not seen Ohio State's offense look like a war machine this season.
Mm-hmm.
It has been very start, stop, easy button to Jeremiah Smith, clunky. Oh, here's one missed tackle. Emeka Buka's gone for a 65-yard touchdown because there's so much talent. They can just wait for you to make a mistake. But Indiana has not gotten to 10-0 by making mistakes. Indiana has gotten to 10-0 by closing the talent gap with mistake-free football. It's in the shoe. That increases the potential for mistakes.
Right.
But if Indiana plays a clean game, they'll have a shot to win it in the fourth quarter.
13.5 is a lot of points for Ohio State to be laying as mediocre as they have looked. Real quick, no shot Ohio State misses the playoffs unless they lose this week and next week, right?
Correct. But I will tell you that if my interior offensive line is getting shuffled, I don't want to play Michigan. Now, I think even the backups on the offensive line could get Ohio State to 24 points, and Michigan can't get to 24 points. So, that's just kind of where you're at right there. But I see Ohio State based on the Penn State win on the road, being able to have that as a nice anchor, even if they do take their second loss of the season at home in Columbus on Saturday.
Colorado, Kansas. We'll end on this because Kansas, I know they're playing better. I get it. That will not be a bad loss for anybody because Kansas is playing better. Georgia Tech's a bad loss, depending on who you're listening to, and I'm not accusing Cover 3 Podcast of saying that.
It's a bad loss because the Big 12 is only going to get one team in this playoff, and a loss bounces you out of sitting in the driver's seat. There are two teams this weekend in the Big 12 who can play their way into the Big 12 title game, which means they have real college football playoff hopes.
Yep.
It's Colorado going into Arrowhead Stadium to play against Kansas, and it's Arizona State playing host to BYU.
Yep. Is Arizona State using a student, like a random student kicker? Because was it Dillingham, the coach?
Dillingham,
right.
Yeah.
He basically came out of a game and said, open tryouts. We'll see anybody who wants to try it. You come on out and kick, and we'll give you a chance. Are they using one of those students, or is it an actual football player?
They have shored things up. He was extremely frustrated, but the fact that was one of their two losses, a one-score loss to Cincinnati with 1 billion missed field goals, I mean, that shows you the work that has been done in Tempe. They started the season under NCAA sanctions. Mm-hmm. They didn't go to a bowl game. They've got recruiting restrictions, and Kenny Dillingham has that group on the verge of playing for a Big 12 title. So that's a hot team right now that I would not want to face if I was BYU coming off that disappointing loss.
All right, as we say goodbye to Chip Patterson, yes or no answer. All right, yes or no, and that's it. Rory McIlroy, having just won the DP World Tour Championship with a solid final round, that is the jumping off point for next year's utter destruction of the PGA Tour.
No.
That is the wrong answer.
There's too much time
off. No. This is yes or no. You said no. That's it.
No.
You said no. That's fine. We'll have this debate another time.
Listen, as always, we separate Rory McIlroy in two different chapters, and a new chapter starts the moment the final round is done at Augusta. And I will buy everything for Rory McIlroy as soon as Augusta's in the rear view. I don't trust him.
No.
Until that, I don't trust him until that monster is put back in the closet.
Follow the rules. It was a yes or no question.
I gave you my no.
Chip Patterson, you're the best, man. I'll talk to you later.
Sounds good. Y'all be well.